So excited to be able to welcome our next guest here to Off the Podium. Recently competed in the Beijing Olympics in the two-woman bobsled. I feel like we need to be politically correct here. It was her first Olympics, and it's a very interesting story here to learn about the journey that took her to those games and everything else in between. It is a pleasure to welcome to Off the Podium, Sara Villani. Sara, first of all, welcome to Off the Podium. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me and asking to chit-chat.
Well, we are here to chat. We're here to learn everything about it because I always love learning about people's paths into their sports and journeys and everything along those lines. And yours is unique. It's interesting. You went to the RBC training ground essentially and did quite well. And then your journey started from there. We've actually spoken to a few athletes on the show before who have been involved in the RBC training ground, but maybe just a bit of a refresher for some of our listeners who aren't familiar with this. Give us a bit of an inkling about what this is and how that ends up turning you into a bobsled athlete.
Yeah, I always describe the RBC training ground as kind of like an NFL or an NHL combine where basically your skills are put to the test. So they want to see you like sprint. They want to see you like do a broad jump. They want to see some strength aspects. So it's just general testing of your abilities. And then from that, different sports will recruit the athlete because they might see something in the testing where they're like, we think that that's a good fit for our program, our sport. So I got recruited to a couple different sports. And I got to try all of them, which was like super wonderful and like super cool. Like, I got to try cycling. I got to try rowing. So I went out on the water, got to try rowing, fell into the water. And then I also got to try rugby, which is like, it's not something that my high school had. So like, it was really fun to like hit the pad and like see what that was like. And yeah, even with cycling, like going on the velodrome and like going on a bike that doesn't have brakes. And like, I don't think a lot of people realize that those bikes, like there's no way to stop and you're whipping around those in that oval, like pretty fast. So yeah, there's no stopping. And then the fourth sport was bobsleigh. And so I got the opportunity to go down to Calgary in 2018 and try bobsleigh. But yeah, that's essentially RBC training ground. It's a moment for you to go show off your abilities, and then hopefully some sports want to attract or like want to talk to you and recruit you.
And you'd come from a athletics background, hadn't you? So this was sort of what you had grown up doing. So, I mean, before you decided to try your hand at the RBC training ground, where were you at on your athletics career and kind of what was it that made you decide to do the training ground and give that a go?
Yeah, so before I got into like athletics, track and field, I actually did gymnastics, and I'm like around 5'10", 5'11". Clearly that wasn't working out for me. Although gymnastics, like I absolutely love gymnastics. Like it's really like my first sport love kind of thing. It created such a wonderful foundation for me to continue on. So I was at like, the old age of like 12 years old, 13. And I realized like, I know, just like, so like over the hill, we got to take you to the glue factory. But I realized kind of quickly as I kept towering over my friends and teammates, I was like, I'm not going to go anywhere with this sport, but I still love doing sports. Like I want to be active. I still want to do sports. And thankfully, like through high school, I found track and field and I really, really liked that. And in grade 9, I ended up doing really well in our like high school track and field competition. So I was like, I want to transition into that. And so I discovered the heptathlon, and I absolutely loved doing the heptathlon. I actually got the opportunity to represent Canada at the Junior Pan Am Games in 2015. And so that was also a really valuable experience for me to kind of realize like, sometimes like you're like big fish, little pond, or like big fish, little fish, big pond kind of thing. So it was a really great perspective and learning experience. And then as I got older and into university, I did represent Western University in the pentathlon, and I had some success there, and I had a lot of fun. But then the injuries started happening, and I'll be honest, a little bit of body image issues where I found that I was quite larger than a lot of the other girls. It's not that I didn't have any coaches or anyone making comments to me. I just felt like from myself, I was like, I'm built more like a thrower. I'm like solid and like strong like a thrower. And so then the final straw was like a stress fracture basically. And I was like, I'm going to switch to javelin. And then I was going through and I was like, I don't know. I was trying to make some decisions of like where I would want to continue with my sporting career after university. And I was debating actually moving to a different country. And I was like, I don't know, like, because there's so many unknowns with that. And then I signed up for RBC Training Ground. And that's when the doors of opportunity for different sports were open for me, because I didn't think, I was kind of very like, I got to stay in track and field. I got to pick javelin. I guess I'll pick javelin. And then these doors opened for me. And I was like, well, like, I see potential in doing bobsleigh. And so then I ultimately switched.
So when you say you were planning on moving to another country, was that with the prospect of competing for them? So like you wanted to maybe like come to Australia and compete, in javelin or something for Australia. Was that sort of what you were thinking at that point?
No, I was actually like specifically at the time, it has changed a little bit, but at the time that I was debating, it was very difficult to find javelin specific coaches. And a lot of them are like in the States or they're in Europe. So I was debating like, we have a really top javelin thrower in Canada, Liz Gleedle. She, for a while, was actually training in Germany. I think even sporadically through the last few years, I think sometimes she goes to Germany. So I was actually debating like going to Germany, because even there's a lot of top javelin throwers, like Johannes Vetter, Thomas Roller. There's top javelin throwers who come out of Germany. So I was like, well, like I was kind of toying with that idea. Whether I was actually going to follow through on that was another story. But then ultimately RBC kind of just changed my thinking, and different opportunities came up.
I just was making sure this isn't just a Canadian bobsled thing. Let's just go and compete for another country. So I'm just not touching that one yet there, Sarah. But it's one thing I find fascinating about sort of, you're saying what you're there about track and field, is that you took up heptathlon. I'm a big fan of any sport that involves multiple disciplines. I love modern pentathlon. I love Nordic combined. I think these are just great sports, which I always have to ask, what is it then about an event like the heptathlon that draws it to you? Can you just not make your mind up? You're just like, I love all the events, I'm going to combine them. Or do you just really like that challenge of basically having so many different disciplines to push yourself towards?
Yeah, I was attracted to the heptathlon because I loved the idea of being good at like multiple different things. That whole like jack of all trades, but hopefully a master of something. But I love the idea of being good at everything. And I do like the challenge of like trying to be better in something. And I also found that the heptathlon was a really great way to kind of section things off. So like maybe if high jump isn't going super well, like, you're starting to get really frustrated with that, javelin is actually going really well and my sprints are going really well. So there are positives that we're working on. And then maybe high jump starts to get a little bit better and then it's like nice, but it's like, okay, hurdles, I'm getting really frustrated in hurdles now. And so there's things to be able to take away and like not get stuck in the negative and stuck in that rut of like, this is not working out. There's still positives that you can take away from. But yeah, ultimately I think the heptathlon, even the deck, it's like, that is true athleticism. Like you are showing off like just how athletic you are. You are good at everything. And so I loved the idea of that. And maybe that also comes from gymnastics where like you are required to do 4 different events. And so you have to show your skill sets in various ways. And even like I was a horseback rider for a small stint and I wanted to do eventing because I wanted to do the 3 different events and like, but I fell off the horse a couple times and I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Like maybe I
falling
can't
off
do
boats,
it.
falling off horses. I mean, have you fallen out of a bobsled yet?
I haven't yet. I haven't fallen out of a bobsled yet, so I haven't been kicked out. Usually with that situation, the bobsled's actually like, get out of here.
Which it's, I mean, you obviously, you mentioned about going to the Junior Pan Ams, but you're obviously very successful too. Canadian junior champion. You were 6th in those Junior Pan Ams. So was this something that before the injuries were hitting you, that this was the goal to go to an Olympics in heptathlon? Yeah. That's what kind of what you were focused on.
Yeah. So when I was little, when I was a gymnast, because I always tell people I was a really bad gymnast. Like I was good despite my height, like despite being taller than both my coaches, all this stuff. And like, I enjoyed it. It's like, I wasn't, I did pretty well in my very first year of competitive gymnastics and like decently well in like my last year of gymnastics. But there was a solid chunk of time where, bottom 3 at provincial level competitions was the norm for me. It's like, that's just where I was. And so I took that as like, well, I'm not a good athlete. And so I remember when I was like maybe around 9 years old, 10 years old, my gymnastics coach at the time explained to me what the Olympics were. And I literally said to him, that sounds scary, because like the idea of like competing for the country in front of thousands of people, I was like, oh my gosh, that is not for me. And it was like almost confirmed because of these poorer placements. I was like, well, like I'm not meant, like that's just not in the cards for me. I'm not going to be an international athlete. But in actuality, it was just I was doing the wrong sport for my body. And then so the Olympic dream came, and when I won the heptathlon for junior nationals and then qualified for a Team Canada team, I then was kind of like, oh, maybe I can go to the Olympics. And that's when, like, again, my coach at the time was encouraging me, and she's like, yeah, like this is a possibility for you. Like you can dream that big. You can go for that. That is a great goal for you. But then the injuries started to set into place. And then obviously like self-doubt came in, and I was like, well, like javelin is going to take me to the Olympics. And again, I was like, there were, you can ask certain people and they would say like, I would have maybe they would say like, whispers of like, yeah, like she could have made it to the Olympics for javelin, whatever. But ultimately I found a path, and it obviously ended up working out. And yeah, I didn't think the Olympic dream was going to be a thing for me until I think I was about 17, 18, basically. That's when it came.
I always love hearing though that moment where it's kind of, you have the challenges and then you still kind of keep pushing towards it. It makes me feel as a 35-year-old that perhaps, my dream is never going to be over until I eventually walk out there and represent Australia one day. And when podcasting is an Olympic event in like 2040 or something like that, you never know. Stranger things has happened.
Well, I know
right?
video gaming, they're talking a lot about that. So if you're into video gaming,
it's interesting with that, because I know they were pushing for that for Paris, but it's just, at least at the time of recording this, they just formed the official board for the Brisbane Olympics in 2032. And the two sports they were talking about were cricket, very Australian, and e-gaming. Yes. So they're basically like esports and everything. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe I need to work on the video gaming in 10 years. And you never know. I
got 10 years to do it.
It's plenty of time, right? Plenty. I mean, you got to the Olympics basically in less than 4 from bobsled. So, I mean, I just look for you for inspiration, Sarah, how that works. But it's, I find it fascinating, like coming from that heptathlon background, because we spoke with Chiara Rodingius sort of just before she went to Beijing, and she comes from a heptathlon background as well. So maybe this is something that a lot of heptathletes who are listening right now, who maybe just aren't quite getting to the level they want to, bobsled is an option. So maybe this is the sport that we need to really focus on for up-and-coming bobsledders in both Canada and Australia.
There are quite a number of athletes that if you like go down the list, like internationally, there are quite a few like men and women who have multi-event background, like hep or deck kind of thing. And I've heard a few stories actually of sprinters where they were like, I was just too fat. So I decided to become a bobsledder. And
that's
like,
my excuse.
But that's how they describe it. They're like, I was too fat to be an actual 100-meter sprinter, but I was still super strong, super powerful, very fast. And so I discovered bobsleigh, and it's like, yeah, that's actually perfect for you. It's like, you're big, strong, and powerful. Come the bobsleigh.
Is it a sport where you actually grow up wanting to be a bobsledder? Because I feel it is a sport that everyone just gets recruited into doing. Like, I'd love to meet someone who, I mean, probably in Germany, I'm guessing, where, you know, that's a sport where it's dominated. It's a German thing.
Yeah.
Because it really is. I feel we never meet someone on this show who's just like, I started at 3 and I wanted to be a bobsledder.
No. There are a few stories. Like, yeah, I think probably Germany, just because it's more accessible. Like, they have 3 tracks at their disposal. So I think for them it is easier. It's more of a realistic thing to be like, yeah, like, I'm 12 years old. I think I want to do bobsleigh. And there's a story of like an American pilot where his whole family has done bobsleigh. So, you know, he was starting to go to a bobsleigh track in Lake Placid at like, I think 3 years old or 5 years old, and started driving when he was super young just because his family did bobsleigh. So that's how he got grandfathered in or into the sport. But yeah, I think bobsleigh finds you somehow, some way. And
there's a t-shirt opportunity, Sarah. Bobsled finds you. You could market that. That'd be a good t-shirt line. I'd wear that.
Start, yeah. I should start that.
That works well.
We got a side hustle going.
Hey, you've got. I mean, you know, you've got to fundraise towards Milan. So I mean, it kind of
that's right.
Start early. That kind of works. So the 4 sports then that sort of they say like, okay, you know, rowing, rugby, cycling, bobsled. 3 of them obviously involve a lot nicer weather than bobsled does. But what was it particularly then that took you over the line? Was it just you felt more suited to it? You felt more enjoyment out of it? Kind of what was it that you chose bobsled out of those 4?
So oddly enough, my very first experience in a bobsleigh, I actually experienced I crashed. We crashed. And I was a brakeman. And, you know, granted, like looking back, we were only going like 80 kilometers an hour. Like, we weren't going super fast, like lower start in Calgary for anyone who like knows Calgary bobsled. So yeah, we crashed, and I obviously fearful, like your very first time in a bobsled, you don't know what to expect. You've seen the movie Cool Runnings, but that only prepares you so much. No. And, but we, you know, I experienced this crash, and like, I'm freaked out, and I am still able to finish the week, like the next day or our next, I think we had a day off or something, but the next opportunity, I should say, I got back in the bobsled, I finished the week, and I went back home, and I was like, Mom, I'm going to do bobsleigh. And I wish I could say that there was like a specific reason, but I honestly just felt like a pull towards it. And I felt that it was something that I could be good at. I thought my stature fit it really well. And my, I guess, background in track and field, like, would really help me. And so, yeah, I just kind of was like, this is what I'm going to do. I got to go do bobsleigh. Yeah.
And what's your mum's reaction to that? Like, oh, you could have chosen rowing, you could have chosen rugby, you could have chosen cycling, but you chose that one.
She still wishes I did rowing. Like, she's like, why not rowing? Like, even the other day she brought it up. She's like, are you sure you don't want to like row? I was like, no, Mom, I don't want to puke in the buckets. Like, no.
Even after I've been to the Olympics, you're still onto it, Mum? Like, come on.
Yeah, I was like, Mom, I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. No.
I know it's going backwards in a sport. Come on, rowers are always going backwards. Like, that's not a sport. What is that? Come on. Just going back all the time.
Oh man, when I tried rowing, it's a whole other world. Like, that sport is such a grind, but it's very cool because like the more you put in, at least I hope I'm not offending any rowers when I say this, but I feel like the more you put in, the more you see success. Like, it's just such like a grind sport. But from the heptathlon, I had to run the 800, and that was my least favorite event because it's just so painful. And that's what rowing is. It's just pain, like just lactic, and it's just pain. It's so
I mean, it's one of those things when I go to the gym, and one of my least favorite apparatus is the rowing machine. So like, and the amount of rowers I've had on this show, and just it is a grind of a sport. Like, it is definitely one of those ones which I admire any rower, because to get to a point, say like the 1500 meter mark where you've got another 500 to go and you've got to somehow build up, it's just insane. Whereas rugby, you're throwing a ball, just get tackled a few times. That's fucking easy. Come on. Like, Jesus.
I mean, I've never actually played rugby. I had like the one opportunity. So I don't know.
Which it seems like such a discrepancy in sports, though, because, like, I mean, I'm thinking rowing and cycling, like, you've got the lactic, you've got the endurance, you've kind of got that speed level of it there, and bobsled, you've got that athletic ability with the push start, like, you've got to be fast speed, whereas rugby, sure, there's got to be a bit of burst on the field, but that's a team sport, for example, much more, and you've got ball usage and everything. It's kind of weird that got lumped into those four sports as well.
I think they just saw my size and stature and figured that I would be a great match. And like, I honestly like having that experience of the exposure to rugby. I really enjoyed it. I loved hitting the pad, but I was like, I don't know if I could put my collarbone into someone else. Like, I was like, oh, I don't want to get hit. And it's funny because one of the girls on the team, she used to do rugby. And she says that she remembers me from that day. Like she was doing her training with like the team, and I was with like the little group who was trying it, like the RBC crew, and she remembers that me throwing the ball, and she was like, "Who is this girl?" Like, that's so embarrassing. And then I later got a chance to explain that I've never really thrown a rugby ball. She's like, okay, that makes sense, because she's like, I was really worried about you.
Wow, jeez,
yeah,
that's crazy. I might know a few teams in Australia that might be useful with that, but that's another story. Was there any part of it too? Because this was 2018, so obviously when you look at an Olympic cycle for winter, you're in a better cycle there because there's a lot longer. Whereas if you were going to choose one of the summer sports, I don't know if, there would have been that period where you would have been able to go to, say, Tokyo. But was any of that mentality in switching to bobsleigh? Because you felt like, oh, realistically, I could make the next Olympics.
No, I wasn't actually thinking about a timeline in many sense. I didn't factor that in at all. Of course, the Olympics was like in the back of my mind, but like bobsleigh is the type of thing where honestly, if you told me like 4 years ago, hey, Sarah, you're going to go do bobsled, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have been like, no, there's no way. Like I would never do that sport. Like that's for crazy people. And here I am. And so, yeah, it's like, it was in the back of my mind that it was kind of like, well, we're going to try for this, but it wasn't like, okay, yes, I am mapping it out. Okay. The quickest path is bobsleigh. I will get chosen. So, yeah.
That's totally me. I'd be doing that, by the way. Just saying that. Which
just getting the pin board out.
Exactly. Just going all over that way with everything. Which, I mean, you obviously mentioned about being a brake woman. Do you have sort of through everything that you go through with the RBC training ground, did then somebody say to you, you're going to be more suited to be the brake woman, or is there a period where you have to yourself decide, I'm going to be a brake woman or I'm going to be a pilot?
Yeah, so they, I think, at least with our federation, I'm not sure if every federation does this, but we like to give everyone at least a season, like a year of being a brake person, just to experience bobsled and see the ins and out of it, learn the sport, learn the sled, learn how to move the sled, flip the sled, start learning what it's like to feel the track. Just learning the ins and out of being a brake person. And then they kind of will say, well, do you want to pilot? So after my first year of bobsled, it was presented to me, would you like to pilot, like go to a piloting school? I turned it down because at the time I was like, no, I'm actually not interested. I don't have any interest in being a pilot. I've now learned to, never say never, because you never know where life's going to take you. And I ultimately did end up going to a piloting school in March. So right after the Olympics, I went to Lake Placid and decided like, yep, put me in a monobob. I'm going to go learn how to drive bobsleds for the first time. And so I'm really glad I got that experience because I have a different perspective on piloting, and just with my experiences being a brake woman, it's very interesting being in the front seat. And that was my very first time actually seeing what it was like to like actually see, like I've seen POVs, but like I've never actually seen a bobsled track. I've always had my head down. So
it was staring at someone's back, basically. You're not seeing the view.
You're not even staring at the back. You're literally staring at the slot, like watching the ice go by.
Wow.
Actually, I close my eyes now, but yeah.
Hopefully not when you're piloting, though. I hope they're open at that point.
Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme.
Yeah. You know the track so well. I can do this with my eyes closed. Here we go.
Yeah, just whatever.
Just turn 3. Oh, this one's easy. Which does that open up the prospect that you're looking at, say, doing a monobob World Cup or looking towards becoming a pilot, or is it more of a case of I'm going to give this a go, see what I feel, and then I'll make that decision up down the line?
Yeah, I with monobob being a new event, a lot of people don't realize that there's a weight limit in bobsleigh. There is a max weight. It's a max weighted sport, and the weight limit for monobob actually suits my stature very well. So it is something that I am considering, just because it's like weight cutting is very hard on the body. It's mentally very tough. It's hard on the body. And so it would be nice to be in a situation where maybe I don't have to, or I can just kind of maintain, which I think that would be my situation. But ultimately I have to decide if I want to pilot. Piloting has different roles and responsibilities. If you're a pilot, you're most likely going to do monobob and 2-woman. And now all of a sudden you're in charge of getting someone safely down the track, which is a big responsibility and something I would not take lightly. And I don't think any pilot does take lightly, because that brake person is ultimately trusting you and giving a lot of themselves to say, I'm willing to get in the back and, do this run with you. So brake people, they got to get a lot of respect, because it's like they get thrown around quite a lot. And so, it's just different responsibilities of being a pilot. So, yeah.
It is really interesting though, to kind of like, we've obviously talked to a few sort of bobsledders on the show who, when it comes to that switching between it, because it is that level which is unique about monobob to the 2-man 2-woman, that you've got to do it both. Like, I guess, like, it's sort of a pilot's not used to braking and a brake person's not used to steering, so it's kind of that different level of it. Which I'm not saying you ever forget to brake when it comes to being the brake woman. That's your job, and so I hope you don't forget to brake. But like, is it a case of in the monobob, the times you've tried it, where it's like, fuck, I've got to brake as well? Like, it's so overwhelming. I mean, I'm a man. I can't do 2 things at once. Like, that's why there's no monobob for men, I'm assuming. But it's like, is that sort of something that gets confusing when you get to the end?
Not from what I experienced. Like, I only was there for like 10 days kind of thing, like 2 weeks. So, and also like we weren't going fast enough that you like really have to like haul on the brakes. So, it was like, I think the last 2, maybe 3 days, I had the opportunity to go from the top. So we are getting a little bit faster, but it was March. So the weather's a bit warmer. So like the ice conditions are a bit softer, so slower. And it wasn't something that I experienced. I haven't heard of any stories of people like monobob pilots forgetting to brake. I've heard of like where it's been difficult for them to brake, because maybe they're in Segolda and like the braking stretch is shorter, and like all of a sudden like you're going fast and like you can't stop it, or you can't grip the ice. Sometimes the ice is the braking stretch, it's too, like there's too much snow, and then so the brakes won't grab into the ice, and then suddenly it's like you're not stopping. And so if it's a track that has a shorter braking stretch, it's tough. And yeah,
there was one of the World Cups I was watching. I can't remember which one it was, but I know that it seemed to be an area. Maybe this is one of the tracks you're talking about, that when you got to the end. Well, yeah, probably, because you kept going into like the fake AstroTurf or whatever it was, and everyone kept going off like, what's going on here? This is fun to watch.
Oh, Austria! I think Austria is supposed to be one of those tracks that it's like, oh, it's no stress. Like, it's Austria. It's nice. It's a great, like a very beginner friendly track, because it's like, it's not as technical of a driving track. It's very push dominant. You have to have a great push. You can't outdrive. It's very, very difficult to outdrive a poor start. But you can obviously drive it away if you're like hitting walls and stuff like that. But yeah, the braking stretch is horrible. And if you watch the 4-man, especially, I feel very bad for them because you cross the line. So you cross the finish line. There's a point where you can brake, and then there's a braking corner that you can't brake in because the likelihood of you tipping is very high. And unfortunately in 4-man, just how men are built, like biologically, a lot of their weight is in their upper body. So they all pop up in the 4-man because they've crossed the line. And so all the weight is up here. And if the brakeman like pulls the brakes, they tip over, and like you feel so bad for them because like
there's a compilation somewhere of people falling over, isn't there?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Oh my gosh. And yeah, so again, sometimes it's really hard to brake, and you only have like a short amount of time to brake. And so luckily, like they put rubber. It's rubber that's there. It doesn't wreck the runners, thankfully, but like it gets them really dirty, and like there is a chance that something could get wrecked. But it's like that braking stretch is awful. Every brakeman is like, oh my gosh, Austria, like you got to be like on it.
I love this whole thing where it's kind of like, I'm sure this is what your mum's thinking. Like it's bobsled's dangerous. You're going so fast. You're going around corners, all this sort of stuff, and you rarely see crashes. The danger is braking. The danger is at the end of the course when you're standing out of the sled. That's what we need to be worried about.
That's the thing. It's like your stress should be like the minute during the actual bobsled run, not the braking stretch.
Yeah,
that should be
the
like,
slow
okay,
part is the safe part, right?
Yeah, it's like, all right, yeah, we're braking, whatever. But yeah, in Austria, they, I don't know, they like to make our jobs difficult. And we often, what like a new person coming to Austria, what a brakeman will tell you is make sure you use your legs. Use your legs. And then like you're like, what do you mean? And they're like, make sure your tailbone, your butt is right against the back and you haul. And it's like, okay.
Wow.
So
jeez.
there's definitely a bit of a tutorial with Austria when you're a brakeman.
I think I chose the right World Cup to watch then, to get all that entertainment going on. The period that I was obviously mentioning, so 2018, you get in a bobsled, you first start competing in international races, 2019, and then you make your World Cup debut in 2021. You do okay as well. You get a fourth in a World Cup with Christine as well. So, I mean, what was that period like sort of when you going from starting out to then going on the world stage, getting fourth in a World Cup, that lead up to that Olympics? I mean, obviously came very fast, but like, I mean, how did you find that period? And to add on that, did you then at some point go, okay, well, maybe Beijing is a realistic opportunity for me all of a sudden?
Yeah. So when I first got into bobsleigh, I was, my first year I was put on the development circuit, and I was doing like the NAC, and like we did get an opportunity to go over to Europe. And honestly, I experienced 4 crashes in a row, and I was like, I can't do this sport. I can't do it. The Olympic dream is done. I can't do it. And my confidence was shot. And I'm very, very lucky that my coach is very, very supportive, and he believed in me a lot. And he was like, you have great potential. And so he worked with me that summer, and he was like, let's just give it one more shot. Like, you can do this. Like, you're a lot stronger than you think. And he basically had to build up my confidence, because my confidence was just at a zero. Like he would ask me to squat, I don't even know, like 110 kilos. And, 110 kilos is on the bar. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And he's like, yes, you can. Like, I'll stand there. I'll help you. And like, he really had to work with me to build my confidence, because I was scared to do certain weights because I was just fearful. And, but over the summer, like we worked a lot, and he helped me like with my fear and stuff like that. And we talked through things quite a lot. And, I trained really hard, and I did better in the ice house, which gave me a different opportunity and like put me on a sled with Christine de Bruin. And, but COVID hit, and like during that summer, and that really, really like rocked the world. Like, of course, as we've seen with the pandemic. But we actually missed the first half of the World Cups. Everyone else was competing in Europe while Canada decided to stay back. And then Christine de Bruin's like normal brake woman, she had an issue with basically getting stuck in the United States. And so then I was basically told, like, you're up. It's time for you to show what you got. And I was like, okay. And it's quite an honor, like, to be able to compete with Christine. Like, like obviously phenomenal bobslayer. She works very, very hard. She very like mature and professional. And so it was really nice, like competing with her. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity because she was part of the confidence builder and confidence booster that I needed that year, where I was like, okay, like I can do this. And, you know, I am going to do this. And so, so like for coming into the Olympic year, I trained very hard, long hours. You know, being an elite athlete, it's a 24/7 job. It really is. It's very different. So I put in a lot of hours, and I ultimately ended up working out. I went to the Olympics. But I guess that's kind of how, so it was just, my first year obviously was pretty rocky, and, but luckily it ended with something to show for, I guess.
What was that moment like then when it came to the selection? Because obviously with bobsled, it all comes down to qualifying sleds. And then I'm assuming for Canada, similar to Australia, then the Federation would choose who will be in those sleds. So did you know only when they officially confirmed you, or when the third sled got qualified, you thought, well, okay, I'm in with a pretty good shot now or even if you qualified the one or the two, did you think you were kind of going to be within a good shot? And when you got that notice?
We knew pretty early on that we were set for like 3 sleds, which is nice because like we didn't have to like stress about it. You know, it wasn't week after week where we were like, oh my gosh, we have to get this placement, like, which I'm very grateful that we didn't have to go through that. I believe that we just had to stay above in points above the second Russian sled, I believe. And we did that very early on. And so it was just about kind of practicing, maintaining, staying healthy, continue to stay in competition mode, prepping for the Olympics. So I knew fairly early on, and that, I was pretty much set. And I had proven myself multiple times that I am a solid push athlete. I am there to perform. I will perform despite what's going, external things. Like I will provide a great push, and do the best of my abilities. And I proved that multiple times. And then, so I was pretty confident. I would say, especially like around January, I was like, okay, I think the Olympic team hasn't been announced yet, but I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm willing to place my bets. But it's like at the end of the day, you never know. It's like, you never want to like say, like, even I know like my dad would be like, oh, like she's going to the Olympics. And I'm like, Dad, you can't say that. I haven't qualified yet. The team hasn't been announced. Like you have to say she's training and prepping for like to compete at the Olympics. So you never truly know 100%, but I did have a good feeling like early on that it's like, I think I'm good.
So when that moment came when you officially knew, I mean, do you take that as automatically I'm an Olympian? Because I know some of our guests will be like, well, I don't feel like I'm an Olympian until I'm on the start line because things can happen between them. But like, I mean, what was it? What moment to you was it like, fuck, this is real, I'm an Olympian? I think so. Even in our Canadian system, you're not considered an Olympian until you've competed. And so I believe I have that mindset as well, because you never know what could happen in between that announcement to your competition date. You know, it's sport, you can get injured, you could get sick, whatever, you can end up just not competing. And so then I don't believe that you're an Olympian until you've completed the competition. So for me, it wasn't until that 4th run was done, but it didn't really hit me that it's like I have the Olympian status until I think I was like back home. And, I was telling people like, I just competed at the Olympics. And because they'd be like, oh, what do you do for work? And I'm like, wow, well, I'm like a national team athlete. And they're like, you're going to go to the Olympics or something? And I'm like, actually, I was just there in February. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah. And so I think that's kind of when it was like, oh yeah, like I just did something that like most people don't do. Which you then get to add 3 cool little initials after your name as well. You can be OLY, which kind of looks a little bit fancier. But I always love also hearing the stories because it's fascinating to hear that. Like I definitely think it's every athlete I feel has that different interpretation of when they may become an Olympian. But outside of that level of it, I always love hearing about the things that it is to be at an Olympics. So, getting the uniform, going to the village, the opening ceremonies, the closing ceremonies, things like that. Like, do you allow yourself to get caught up in those little things at that time and sort of really soak it in? Like, I've got, all this Lululemon shit in front of me, which, everybody would pay their left arm and a leg for, literally, because it's that expensive. Hello to our Lululemon. We love you. But, things like that. Do you take that on board and really soak up those moments?
Yeah. So because of COVID, the Olympics were very different. Like, I tell people, like, I jokingly, I'm like, oh, like, the Beijing Olympics were so VIP that the Chinese citizens weren't even allowed to come. But it's true. It's like we had other athletes there, we had coaches. So it did kind of feel almost normal, like our normal bobsleigh bubble, because we were around a lot of our competitors. We were with the skeleton athletes. We had been there in October. So it's kind of like, all right, like, we know where the village is. We know what the bobsleigh track is all about, and like things like that. We're with very similar people. So it felt very normal almost, and which is good, because I found that my nerves were kept very, very minimal until like the night before, morning of. And like, I was like, I hadn't felt like that nervous or like that type of nerves in a long time. And it was like this nervous excitement. And I was like, texting my coach, and he's like, okay, like, well, do you want to have a call? Like, let's talk about other stuff. And so like, he like sat on the phone with me, and I was like, I'm just so nervous. And like, he like tried to distract me, which I was like super grateful for, because I think that's what I needed. But yeah, because it felt, at least for me, it's like, because it felt so normal, like, just like we're at another competition. There wasn't a whole lot of like, whoa, like, this is oh my gosh. And like, it was obviously super cool to get the Lululemon stuff, but it was just different. And like, even for me, I actually was one of the lucky athletes that went to the quarantine building. So I was actually opening my Lululemon stuff with my friends on FaceTime in the quarantine building.
Nice.
And I missed the opening ceremonies because of that. At that point, I was in the isolation protocol, but yeah, I didn't get to walk into the opening ceremonies, and that's okay. Like, it happens.
Did you do the closing ceremony? Were you able to at least?
I did.
Yep.
Yeah, so I did do the closing ceremonies, which was like really amazing. It's like, it's so beautifully done, and it's an inspiration. Like, you're sitting next to like a gold medalist, like, you're sitting, like, the hockey girls are behind you, and like, Christine de Bruin is like a couple of seats over, and you're like, man, this is so cool. Like, I'm with like these like just amazing athletes, and like, you're like, wow, like, this is like, we've just done something like that most people don't do, and like during a pandemic, and it's like, this is crazy. Like, so it was cool. It was a very awesome experience.
I always find it interesting too, I guess, with winter athletes, when we've spoken about this on the show before, whereas, a lot of summer athletes get to do some sort of multi-sport event, a Commonwealth Games, a Pan Ams, where they can maybe interact with people from other sports, where you're not really getting a chance to do that outside of, I guess, skeleton athletes, maybe some luge athletes every now and then. So you get to bump into the hockey girls, some skiers, curlers, people like that who, you're not really able to, I guess, rub shoulders with most times.
Yeah, that's true. And so where we were in the village, we were actually put with the other bobsledders of like Canadian bobsled team, the skeleton athletes, the luge athletes, and then ski alpine, which is cool because I've never met a ski alpiner before. And so talking with them, it was really eye-opening, like just like different things that they deal with, and like them talking about various courses that they do, and you're just like, what? And then they're like, no, what you guys do is insane. And I'm like, you guys are going just as fast as us, and like we at least have a sled to cover. Like, I'm like, what?
Pieces of wood on our feet, basically.
Yeah, and I'm like, you bring up Kitzbühel with them, and they're like, oh yeah, that course is wild, and you're like, okay. So so it is, because you're right, we don't normally get to run into other athletes, so it's really cool, like, and because you just learn about other sports, and it's really nice talking to people like that.
Do you set expectations, or does the team set I mean, with 3 sleds, you go into it. I mean, obviously going into those Olympics, Canada had medaled in the last 3 two-women bobsled events at the last 3 Olympics. So does it go in with medal expectations for at least one of you, or do you keep those sort of things on the down low and kind of just focus on times or, day at a time, things like that?
When we're having like our meetings, it's usually, I would say like the summary of it would be like professionalism and excellence, where we are trying to be our very best every single day. And, for some people, like individually or within like their teams, like or sleds, that might be our best is going for a medal. And it's like, or another team, it might be like our best is just like giving it all we got, because like this is our Olympic moment and we're just going to do the best we can. So I would say, yeah, like to the team, it's like professionalism, excellence, like let's do, let's do the little things, like let's, stay later, let's work on the sled, do the little things that could get us 100th faster. And that's more, I would say, what the message is to the team.
How are the teams themselves decided? So like in terms of the 3 sleds that you've got with the 6 of you, is that locked into place before you go based on, this is how we worked in the World Cup, or can things sort of get changed around? Because I know sort of with Australia's sled, things were sort of changed around based on where they were in the World Cup. So, I mean, you end up back with Melissa, somebody who you've been with before, and then sort of, that's like, did you know you were with her basically the whole time, or was that chosen just before Beijing based on results and things like that?
No, so I knew I was going to be paired with Melissa pretty early on. Partly, again, bobsleigh is a maximum weight sport. We fit pretty well for weight wise. So pretty early on, I kind of knew that the pairings were more or less set. It's obviously, again, it is sport. At the end of the day, anything can happen, and things in the past have been switched around last minute. Even for the men's side, there were some last minute switch arounds. So it can happen. But I think with the women, at least with the female side for this past year, it was kind of like, it was set early on that it's like, these are the brake women, these are the pilots, like this is what's happening. Which in many ways is nice, because it's like, you try and build that team dynamic and try and get a routine and a jive going, which can make things a little bit easier.
So, I mean, on that, like, whether it is like an official team meeting comment you're saying, or it's something you keep to yourself, do you personally say to yourself, okay, I want to be top 10, or I want to get a medal, or I want to be, whatever it is? Like, do you personally set yourself some sort of goal going into the event?
Yeah, even like for myself, like my coach and I, we discussed like, what is our goal? And I was very happy with how I pushed at the Olympics. The start profile for the Beijing track, because it's so steep, you could argue that it's better suited for more sprinter style pushers. I hope I'm not like wrong in saying that. If any bobsledders are going to call me out and go, "That's wrong," like, no, it's not.
Oh, we get it all the time. Don't worry. We just ignore those messages. It's fine.
we just immediately trash.
Yeah, we've got a folder. Bobsledders complaints. Oh, we'll just put it in the folder. We'll read them later.
Just whatever. But yeah, so because it's so steep, you need that overspeed. So it like really well suited to more sprinter style. And I think like from what we've seen, like especially on the female side, there were a lot of like brake women who are known to be sprinters that were in those top push ranks. And I was very proud that I was, on the first day I had 2 top 6 pushes, and I was very proud of that. And, I remember calling my coach and being like, not so bad for an 80+ kilo girl. And he like laughed. He's like, yeah, that's not so bad at all. And so, yeah, of course I think as brake people, like what we really want is like push start records. If we really want push start records, and because your name gets like put on that and you're like, that's mine. Like, that's what I did. And, but even like, of course you want the medals, you want the crystal globe, like all that stuff. And so, yeah, like you want those things. And I guess that, that scale, that expectations and those goals, like they're always constantly changing. So it's like, yeah, you're always like, okay, one push start record. Okay, how about another one? Okay, one medal. Let's go for another crystal globe. So yeah, you definitely do have some individual goals and like what you want to do. And yeah, that was discussed with my coach and what we were hoping and aiming for.
And I'm guessing they changed, given that you're still so young, you're still so fresh into your career, that, you know, the more and more you've got an Olympics over and done with now. So I guess you can kind of look towards different events differently now, right? Because I can imagine that if you go to Milan, it's going to be a different, this is what I want to achieve now versus I'm at my first Olympics, this is what I want to achieve here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. It's like, I would say maybe like your expectations, like at least for me, like get higher, because I'm like, I've improved so much in 3 years. Like, you know, I look back at even like my second year of push technique and I'm like, oh my God, oh, that was so bad. Oh, and, you know, I don't even bother looking at my first year pushing. I'm like, no, we don't look at that. But it's like, I've improved so much in 3 years. So it's like, I do look forward to where that, I guess, line and can be moved to of like, okay, like, let's keep going. Let's keep fighting for more hundredths and stuff. Cause there's always like, I guess that's the whole game. Like, it's like, you're always trying to find these hundredths and you're like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And yeah, it's like a fun, challenging game that you're constantly playing.
So, I mean, obviously on then that level, as you're saying, like, you know, starting at a level, going towards other things, you obviously leave Beijing finishing 12th. So I guess then, does that set sort of like a bar in terms of going to competitions moving forward that I mean, it's probably a dumb question to say, like, you always want to improve on your last result, but like, do you then go into every, say, the next World Cup season going, okay, we were 12th, we could be here now, or like, oh, next Olympics, I need to be top 10, so to speak. Like, is it always that case where you're working towards improving that? I think you know the question I'm trying to ask you, Sarah. I don't know where I'm going with it. Let's just say 12th at the Olympics, moving forward, where are we to now?
Maybe I'll just start talking and hopefully I answer the question. There's a saying that I've heard a couple times where it's pretty aggressive, but it's like, you're only as good as your last race. And I think it's very true. Like, yeah, so you are constantly trying to improve. And again, like as athletes, it's like, we want to achieve more. And like, we always want to like be improving. And like, again, like that's the whole challenge of wanting to find hundredths and go, okay, so we were 12th or 17th or 8th or whatever it was, even third, I walked away with a medal. It's like, well, how do we improve on that? Yeah. And it's like, or how do we even replicate that? Maybe that's the scenario. And so, yeah, I think like, it is a base benchmark where we go, all right, now where do we go? How do we go more?
Which, I mean, same with podcasting. You know, I usually ask a question like that, which is quite shit. And then I go, okay, next question, I can improve on that. It's not that hard. So I hope that it improves, basically. If you
set the bar low, then it's like,
exactly.
You only have up to go.
Exactly. That's how it plays. Which, I mean, on that, like, again, I know it's a question that Olympians hate being asked just after an Olympics. It's, oh, you're going towards the next Olympics. But is it a case of that you've got that hunger now, that you've had an Olympics behind you and that is something? And then on top of that, given that 2030, high possibility it could be in Canada, it could be in Vancouver. Like, do you look at things like that to think that, hey, I'm going to keep pushing towards not only the next Olympics, but potentially a home Olympics in 8 years' time?
Yeah, you get a little taste of it and then I guess you get greedy and you're like, okay, I want more. And I am, getting my Olympic tattoo and like planning for it. And I'm planning to add things to it to kind of represent the Olympics that I've gone to. And, I was talking to the tattoo artist and I'm like, well, like the next one is in Milan and like maybe over here. And then it might potentially be in Vancouver and like I could do this and blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, you get a little greedy and you're like, okay, well, I want to keep going. And like, you can always go back to school. You can't go back to sports. It's very difficult when you're 50 to go back and be like, I think I'll go squat 150 kilos. Like, why not? It's pretty difficult. So
unless you're Tom Brady, you retire for 5 minutes, right? And then you just go back anyway.
That's true. And then you're like, I want to keep doing it. So, but yeah, it's, I'm still young. I still have, a couple Olympics in me, and I'm like, why not? And my friends are always like, avoid the 9 to 5 for as long as possible. Just keep avoiding it. So I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, I guess I'll keep bobsledding.
You've got a great excuse for that. Where did you get the tattoo, and how quickly was it? Like as soon as you got back, you're like, I get tattoo straight away. Let's do it.
I actually haven't gotten the Olympic rings tattooed yet.
Right.
It's still in the works. Yeah. So it's, yeah.
You've got
Yeah,
the necklace
so
though. I can see the necklace though. So
I
that's
do have
something.
the necklace. Yeah. Yeah. I do have the necklace.
Awesome. Because I always like, it's kind of that weird thing, like of all the levels of the things you get to do as an Olympian, it just always seems that rites of passage where like, got to get the tattoo, right? Like it has to be done.
Yep. Yeah. I always said to myself, like, if for some reason I ever went to the Olympics, I was like, that's a tattoo I'm going to get. Like, I don't picture myself with like a bunch of tattoos or anything. Like, I wish I could be like, oh yeah, I want to get a sleeve. Yeah. Like, I don't think it's in my personality. But I was like the tattoo, and my mom isn't super big into tattoos.
I was going to ask, what's mom think?
Yeah,
like
she's not super big into them. But she's like, the Olympic tattoos is you got to get that one. So
as long as it's not like Post Malone style on your face or something like that, then
No,
maybe.
we can't do. But the helmet would cover it.
True.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So
go all out. You could be that unique Olympian who's like, bugger it on the head, boom, and then when people ask you,
maybe I'll just
what
do
do
the
you
jugular.
do? Yeah, exactly. Straight across the neck. That would definitely work out well. And so now, sort of, we're recording this at the beginning of May. So are you back into training? Like, is it kind of that period now where you look towards the next World Cup season? And have you just sort of had a couple of months off that you've been able to just, I guess, recoup and relax a little bit before you do go for the next tilt?
Unfortunately, So I tried to go back to training. So usually what we do is about 4 weeks off. I wasn't quite ready to go back at the 4-week mark. So I think I took off about 6 weeks after Beijing. And we discovered that an old injury that I was kind of hoping would be healed, magically just healed in the 6 weeks, did not heal. And it was basically, it's a sports hernia in my upper ab. I noticed it, I think actually in my second year of bobsleigh, but it went away. It was very minor. I didn't even actually know what it was. I just had like a funny pain. And then this past year, it got, I guess it suddenly came during the World Cup season. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's kind of annoying. I don't know what's going on. Something's not right. And so I finally got it scanned because I went back to training, and I did a weight session, and I went back into my house and I sneezed, and my ab just grabbed, and I was like, I yelled out, I was like, ah, and my mom was like, are you okay? I was like, I don't know. And so I was like, okay, something's wrong. And so I got it scanned, and they're like, yeah, there's the tear, and that's considered a sports hernia. I was like, oh, okay.
Because you sneezed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if maybe that's what maybe it was it was healing, and then the sneeze, I don't know, or maybe
aggravated
it was always just there in the sneeze. Yeah. I honestly, I don't know, but I sneezed, and I was like, it's still there. Oh my God.
I'm scared to sneeze now. Yeah. I just think,
I know. And my problem is I hold in my sneezes. So, I hold in my sneezes. And so that's not good. That's really, you're not supposed to do that.
I mean, thankfully it didn't happen before the Olympics. I mean, how would that be explained? I was going to the Olympics and then I sneezed and then I didn't go to the Olympics.
Well, actually I had, the stories, I guess, you could share, I guess I've had a couple muscle tears from this past year. It pops up, it happens, and you deal with it. You find ways. I basically got PRP injections for them to help speed up the healing, and so I've had 3 now. But before, I think 4 or 5 days before the Olympics, I was supposed to compete. I thought I tore my hamstring, and I was panicked. I was panicking, and basically when I noticed it was I picked up the bobsledder. I was helping to flip it or something, and I was like, oh, my hamstring. And I was like, oh my God, And thankfully, obviously it was not torn. It was just, I guess, aggravated, strained. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was heavily wrapping my hamstring for the 4 days. You know, I had to kind of like luckily it kind of worked out because you're tapering anyways. So like I wasn't actually like doing much in like the week leading up to the Olympics because all of a sudden I had this hamstring. But luckily I woke up on the day of the competition. I was fine. My hamstring felt normal.
Fine.
And then you put Tiger Balm on it and you're like, whatever.
It's a magic spray they use in soccer, right? When they're on the ground and they just spray them and they're fine. Which, I mean, that would be my thing if I ever make an Olympics. It would I wouldn't want to go outside. I'd lock myself in my room. Like, no, I could get COVID. I could get injured. Like, no, training's fine. I made the Olympics. I'm good. Like, I'm just staying inside forever until I'm on there. Yeah, like, cause I'd be so scared.
Just like bubble wrap me until I get to the start line. Yeah, it's so yeah, there's a lot of things that I and a lot of other athletes do where we kind of pare down what we're doing, and like different things where it's like you know, I wouldn't get on a horse because it's like I haven't been horseback riding in like 10 years.
Would you have anyway though, Sarah? Is that a common plan that you do on a week? Oh, Saturday, time to get on a horse.
Time to get on a horse.
That's how you ride to training. You're very traditional.
Well, I do live in the country, so stranger things have happened.
I lived in Canada. I know that's how you get around. Just we'll ruin that illusion. Yep.
There's a horse and buggy, and then polar bears in the winter.
Exactly. It's like in Australia we ride kangaroos.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I've heard that actually. Yeah.
It's a great way to get around.
But yeah, probably a lot of jostling with the jumping, but
just a bit. But you get used to it. It's kind of, you know, after a while you realize that they don't have good shock absorbers. But hey, like it's good for the back somehow. I don't know. Probably bad for the back.
That's great.
Yeah, the things that work out.
But yeah, there's certain things that I just like wouldn't do because you're like, well, the Olympics is 8 months away. I'm not going to go get on a horseback, like just in case. I'm not going to go mountain biking because that's not something I do. So yeah, you kind of, you're careful with what you do. Even like in Calgary, it's super common, like those electric like scooters to like just boot around town. And I've never been on one because I was fearful that it's like, what if I fall and like twist an ankle and then boom, Olympics are done.
And you also don't walk down the street when those things are there because you can also get collected by one of them because people in them are maniacs.
I know, it's true. They just like zoom by and you're like,
yeah,
don't you have a bell? Like,
yeah,
yell or something? Like,
what the hell is going on there? We're going to get to know you, Sal, fun little questions in just a moment. But before I do, just a couple of quick questions. Have you had a Twinkie yet?
I actually have not.
I still haven't had it yet.
Twinkie.
Okay.
No,
I feel like I wish I had one right now to virtually hand you, but I'm not that well prepared. But what is it about Twinkies that is this a thing now that you own this? Like, I will never eat a Twinkie.
Honestly, I was just about to say, like, even if you offered it, I feel like I would have to say no just because it's been so long, so many years that like I've never had one. Yeah, I'm like, that's my claim to fame. Like I've never had a Twinkie, so I got to keep up with that. It's such a unique
claim to fame, though, because I feel there's probably a majority of Australians who have never had a Twinkie, so we don't really have them in Australia. So
it's a very, like, I guess, North American thing. And in years past, I've said it where it's like people are like, oh, like I love Twinkies. I'm like, oh, I never had one. They're like, oh, what? And I'm like, I don't know. My parents never bought one. Like, I don't know.
Your parents were smart. They're not that great. Like, let's be honest. Twinkies, like, no offense to our Twinkie lovers out there, but there's much better snacks than Twinkies. I also read you played the trumpet growing up. Now, is this
my poor mother?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, bobsledding, tattoos, trumpets. Is it something that you could bring back out? Like if the bobsledding, does that you become a trumpet player? Because I mean, I don't know the transition from bobsledding to trumpet playing. I mean, not many people probably do it, so you could be unique in that aspect too.
Well, it might work out because, like, in the bobsled, you kind of have to control your breathing a lot. So it's like, I probably have like a good lung capacity for it. No, I played it in like junior high into high school. And basically my brother actually, like, just, part of the music program, my brother was like given the trumpet as well. And then my mom, you know, when it was my turn, because like my brother's older, but when it was my turn, she was like thinking to herself, like, please, anything but like a brass instrument, just not a brass instrument. And then I got the trumpet as well. And she was like, oh my God. So there was about a year overlap where both my brother and I, we were playing the trumpet. And yeah, she was like, oh my God. But no, I honestly, it's been years since I played it. And like, I just did it for school. So just like an odd fact that I just kind of throw out there that it's like, yeah, I used to play the trumpet. Like,
and don't eat Twinkies. Basically,
and don't eat Twinkies.
That's how it goes. And although I think it's the same interview I read that you did, 2 cats and a dog. Can you tell? Because I'm a cat person. And everyone's always got dogs, so that, you know, I'm sure your dog's great. But tell us about the cats. How are the cats? What are their names? You know, give some details.
So I'm actually allergic to cats. We found out
you ruined that straight away. Come on, Sarah.
I know. So I absolutely, like, if you were to ask me, are you a dog or a cat person, I wouldn't be able to decide, because I'm like, oh, both have such like wonderful pros and both have cons. Like, you know, I see both sides. Like cats are very independent, but like a dog always shows you like love, but it's like they're like a child, and then like cats can be very cold. So it's like I see both sides.
Cats are bastards, but they're great bastards, let's be honest.
I know. Ours, we got them. They're both males. One is named Silas, one is named Willie, which is, yes, the Duck Dynasty characters. So that's who we named them after. And they are wonderful cats. They love belly rubs. They demand for belly rubs, actually. They're very, very vocal with us to let them know that they want attention. They've never bitten us, they've never scratched us. Like they're honestly wonderful cats. Like they're 2 very, very wonderful cats.
Good to know.
We got them from a shelter. Yeah, so I think they're maybe well socialized. Maybe that's why. I honestly don't know. Because our first cat was like a barn cat, and like very stereotypical cat. Like, you're petting me too much. Stop that. Yes. Yeah.
Which is, I agree with what you say. Like, about you can be both. Like I'm definitely a cat person, but like I love dogs. Like it's kind of that, there's that stigma. It's like, oh, you're a cat person, you don't like, why don't you like dogs? Like, well, I love dogs. Like I do. If I had to choose, I would choose cats. But like it doesn't mean I don't. I've had dogs my whole life. I love dogs. They're great, but definitely more of a cat person. So I'm that rare breed, apparently. I don't know how that works. As I said, we wrap up every interview with a set of fun get-to-know style questions. And as always, these are based on a questionnaire that Team Canada gave their athletes ahead of Rio and Pyeongchang. We believe they didn't do it for you guys, which we're disappointed, but we've kept this tradition alive, Team Canada. So if you want to bring it back for Paris and Milan, you are most welcome to, because we at least care about asking these questions to your athletes. There is, again, an optional drawing element, Sarah. So I don't know how you are at your drawing, but if you wish to, you can send it in to us and we can put it on our social media. So just if you feel the need.
That in mind.
Keep it in mind. There you go. Your favorite all-time Olympic moment is?
Oh my gosh, you're starting with a hard one.
I know.
Geez. I want to say probably getting released from quarantine. No, I think the moment that we got to see the Olympic competition suits, I really loved the suit. And that's when you really start like visualizing, you're like, oh, okay, like that's the suit that we're going to wear. And I loved the design. I thought they were very, very nice. I really, really liked it. Obviously, like I like the more black and then with the white and the red. I think it's a very, very nice and professional. So yeah, when we got to see those Olympic suits, like that was pretty sweet. And
I got to say,
I liked that.
The fact that you get given Lululemon stuff and you don't have to line up for it. Every time I saw Lululemon stores when I lived in Canada, it was like a block party. There were just people queued up around the corner. They had the guy with the clipboard and the headset. I'm like, oh, what's this exclusive party? It's, oh, Lululemon's open. So you got it quite easily. So there you go. That's another positive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Lululemon stuff, like, wow. Like so many people would come up to us and be like, we're so jealous of your kit. And I think they were trying to they're like, how can I get some? And you're like, no, man, get off. But even I was getting messages from like the summer Olympians, and they're like, you guys got Lululemon. We're so jealous. Oh my gosh.
We just got the bay.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, well, you could switch sports.
Yeah, which I'm saying right now, I am wearing a lovely The Bay T-shirt. So that's all I'll say. Did you do uniform training with any other athletes? Because I know there is some sort of uniform training sometimes with Olympians.
I personally didn't. I am a little bit of a hoarder, and I'm not good at letting things go. Even despite me reading The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, I still all my clothing sparks joy in me, so I can't get rid of it.
Right.
So I didn't trade, but I did the pin trading, which was really fun.
Which did you get? Like, I love hearing about how some people really get into it. Like, did you get obsessed with like trading? Like, oh, I need a Czech Republic pin all of a sudden. Like, where is it? I need to find it.
I didn't get super into it. I found like the volunteers were like super excited, and they would really want like specific ones from Canada. Like, we have a pretty large one that we only got 2 of. And so they're like, oh, we really want that one. And you're like, no, man, I'm keeping one of them. And yeah, cause they know like, that's like the rare one. It's like, no, man, you're not getting that one. But yeah, it was really fun. Like, I liked, and it was a great opportunity to like meet people from other sports and other athletes. And yeah, so I liked that, the pin trading.
I know some of our Tokyo athletes were saying that it was like an app, like a game that the IOC or something had done. So like if you completed a certain amount of tasks, kind of like a Pokemon Go thing, you had to like go through tasks and you find. Did you have a similar thing like that where you could go on an app and find certain apps, certain pins?
Yeah, so there was something similar, but it was, I didn't actually end up doing it because it was a pin box. I saw the pin box and I was just like, eh. 'Cause I think it was a lot of, yeah, I don't know. I just like
too complicated.
I was like sitting there for half an hour doing the game. I don't know. So I don't know. I was like, I want to meet the athletes. I want to like do it that way. So I kind of stuck with that method.
Works. That's a good way of doing it. As a kid, your favorite sports team was?
So not a specific team, I would say. Like, I've never really gotten into teams, but I loved watching gymnastics, like artistic gymnastics. And I actually really liked watching bobsleigh. It was super cool when that would come on during the Olympics. And then I loved watching figure skating, of course. I guess coming from a gymnastics background, I thought it was so crazy that they would do all these twists and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if they fall, they're falling on ice. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then track and field, yeah. So I kind of ended up doing all the sports that I liked watching.
So is it when it comes to some of those sports, and now that you are an Olympian, do you feel like, okay, like I really want to meet Andre de Grasse? I really want to meet, Tessa. Like, do you want to like use these sports where you kind of like watch growing up to kind of use some inroads in and be like, hey, COC, I want to meet some of these people because these are the people I grew up wanting to be like.
So I think this is maybe something I differ on a lot of people. I don't actually have any like celebrities that like, inspiration and stuff like that. I guess, especially now that I've gone to the Olympics, I realize that a lot of these people, like, they're just normal people. They're just, this is their job. So I don't have anyone specific that I would like to meet. I've heard Clara Hughes is like super, super nice. So I'd love to meet her. Like, I think that would be someone who I'd like to just hear her story and like meet. But yeah, I don't have anyone specific in mind.
So there's not even, I'm going to tie this in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a question I used to ask on another radio show, which was always, who was your childhood celebrity crush? So not even like like somebody out there, like if right now, if like Ryan Reynolds walked in or somebody like that, you'd just be like, oh, like, okay, I can, yeah.
No, yeah. So I sort of had a celebrity crush. Like, again, I didn't get super into that, but there was like, eventually as I got older, I was like, oh my gosh, Channing Tatum is just so handsome. Like, he's just so handsome. So that was like, I guess, my celebrity crush. But
well, funnily enough, Channing's with us right now. Channing, come on in.
Oh my God.
He's a friend of mine. We just chill together, just working on all these different films. But I always find it interesting because like I used to love asking that question on my other show because you just get the wide variety of answers, and often you would either feel very young or very old when you would have certain people would answer that. But it is like, I can find it very unique to think that, as you say, like you're in an Olympic village and you are rubbing shoulders with those sort of people who outside, like, I don't know, there's Michaela Schifrin or somebody like that. Like, everyone's like, wow, Michaela Schifrin. But you're just like, oh, just doing a job. Just going to work tomorrow, everyone. Like,
I shouldn't say that.
No, it's all right.
No, like, what
we
they've done-
made enough fun of
just,
Michaela Schifrin in the last couple of months. It's fine, but it's like, I mean, it's no different to like if you go to a supermarket and you got a great worker behind the thing serving
Oh,
you, like
man.
that's their job. So
I
it's
shouldn't.
kind of.
I'm making it sound like it's like they're.
No,
what
I'm
they've done
making it
is
sound like you're
meaningless.
making it sound that way. Don't worry, that's on me.
I-
So it's like you're fine.
No,
It's like
what they've done is like phenomenal. They're super athletic feats, and obviously, like it's amazing what they've done. But I wouldn't, I guess, like actively go and be like, "Oh my gosh, can I like get your autograph?"
unless it's Channing Tatum, here he is.
If only,
Are
that'd be
you
cool.
dancing naked again, Channing? What's going on? Put some clothes on. If you could be any
This is not Magic
superhero,
Mike.
yeah. Oh, you're not Magic Mike. Okay. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
I guess I don't really. I'm not super familiar with like superheroes, but I guess like Superwoman is pretty cool.
Yep.
So, but I want the ability to be able to transport. That's what I like to be able to just snap my fingers. So it's like whichever female or like whichever superheroes can do that, like the ability to transport. I think that would be nice. I don't have to. Gas prices are way too much right now, so it's like that'd be pretty handy.
Economical. I don't know if there is a superhero who can teleport. I know like Star Trek, they had the thing, and then what was that Hayden Christensen movie Jumper, where they could like jump through like space-time
Timelines.
things.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Bending physics. Why not?
One, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm always on board with that one too, because, like, let's be honest, it's just like, it's Tuesday, let's go to Italy. Boom, bang, I'm there. So it's just
That'd be nice.
just you're bored. 3:00. Let's go there.
Whatever, Spain.
Your favorite music artists are?
These are hard questions. I don't have like specifics. When I was
Do you have
little, I
any
used to
interest,
be-
Sarah? Shall I just start with that?
I know. I'm starting to out myself. It's like, okay, so all this girl does is sports.
Don't like Twinkies.
No,
don't like music.
I'm just a hater. No, when I was younger, I really was like, I loved Lou Bega. Like number 5 was my jam. That was my jam.
Oh,
So-
that makes me happy.
and then
More people need to like Lou Bega. Yes.
Yeah, and then also Shania Twain. When I was younger, I got because I had both of their CDs. So
yep.
Back when CDs were still very very
I remember
much
those.
a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It was on another radio show I did. I interviewed Lou Bega, and he told this amazing story about how, I don't know if you remember the Bob the Builder version of Mambo Number 5 that like got famous a few years later.
Really?
It's Bob the Builder making it up, Mambo Number 5, but with building references. But apparently they never got like Lou Bega's permission, or they got the rights to it. So Lou Bega's basically going off at Bob the Builder, owing him all these like, because I don't know if that song was more successful than his version, but here I am listening to Lou Bega going off about Bob the Builder. So that was an experience.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Lately though, like it's not necessarily specific artists, but it's like, so when I'm working out, I listen to a lot of like EDM and like hard music, I guess. Like I love the bass and then especially now that it's getting in the summertime and like, I think I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but like country music, love country music.
Hey, you're in the right part of the world. If you're in Australia, you would get hate, but North America, no, it's just normal. It's fine. When I lived in Canada and you've got a radio station playing country, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And everyone's like going like, Ben, don't say that. You're in Canada. This is normal. It's like, okay, calm down. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Do you like food, Sarah? I'll just quickly ask that question first of all. Do you like food?
I do like food.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, we're good there.
Very few things that I don't like. My only thing that I'm like, I will not eat this. I can't like this is peppers. I hate peppers. I don't know why. I hate peppers. Sweet peppers, hot peppers, hate peppers. But I think I would probably choose Thanksgiving dinner.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. Because then you can at least mix it up. Maybe make a sandwich.
Which, I mean, it is one thing that I love in this part of the world is Thanksgiving. We don't do Thanksgiving in Australia, so it's Canadian or American Thanksgiving have been some of my favorite meals. So I like that.
That's my choice.
There you go. All right. Your favorite place to compete is?
Beijing.
Beijing.
It's my favorite track. I would say overall, it's my favorite. Just The track itself is super cool. I think it's as close to like a roller coaster simulation like we're ever going to get, because you have like the long sweeping corners and it's not super, super high like G-forces, and that you get the weightlessness feeling, which normally in bobsleigh, that's a very bad thing. You don't want to experience that. That means you're about to crash. So the very first time I kind of knew where it was going to happen, but I felt the weightlessness and I was like, okay, we're good. But it's a really cool feeling. And like when the Beijing track is like driven nicely, like really well, it's like, it's so nice. It's a really, really nice. The mountains are absolutely beautiful. We were probably there for almost 8 weeks in total between October and February. And I think there was maybe like 4 bad days of weather. Like it was always sunny. So yeah, Beijing. I loved Beijing.
Beautiful.
And we also had a heated indoor track to warm up, which was wonderful. Like such a treat.
Can't complain about that. Yeah, exactly.
No.
Wow, crazy. The first drawing one here, if you want to do it, is draw a picture of yourself. So just not sure how you feel about that one, Sarah, but it's there as an option. One thing you have always wanted to do is?
I've always wanted to do the indoor, the indoor flying, like
like skydiving, indoor skydiving.
Indoor skydiving. Because honestly, I've seen too many "I can't believe I'm not dead" videos for skydiving. So like, I don't know if I can do that. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, I've seen a lot of those "I can't believe I'm not dead" videos.
I need to find this YouTube channel. I can't believe it. I'm not dead channel.
It used to be a show like years ago, like 10 years ago. It used to be a really big thing. And I used to just watch it. And now I'm like, skydiving. Because it's like all skydiving. It's like, so yeah, I would really like to do that indoor skydiving.
Keep up with the hand gestures. I much like that when you're trying to explain. I really want to do that indoor like sting. Yeah. I get it. I totally get it. That's exactly what I was thinking when you were going with
there,
it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that thing that you do with your hand. Yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah, that absolute thing. Your favorite thing to do in the summer is?
I've really liked, I've learned to really enjoy walking my dog because I listen to my murder podcast while I'm doing that. And, very...
I think you murder, but this isn't how to murder. This is just it's like how to murder people.
I'll listen to like forensic files or like the 48 hours kind of thing. Those ones. So I really enjoy that. And thankfully I have a couple friends who have cottages. So I love it when they invite me out. So Nicole, if you want to invite me to your cottage again, love to go.
Nudge, wink, wink. There you go.
And also,
and of course, now when you walk your dog, you can listen to Off the Podium, your new favorite podcast.
That's exactly right. I can keep up.
That's exactly it. Your favorite movie is
Disney's Hercules.
Oh, didn't even think about that one. That was straight off the tongue.
See, I do like things.
You do like things. Yes, that's good. Yeah. What is it about Disney's Hercules that particularly tickles your fancy?
I really liked Meg and just like the various characters in the movie is just like, it's really just humorous. And I think it's kind of funny because if you watch back on Hercules, like he kind of does gymnastics, he kind of does weightlifting, he kind of does track and field, and you're like, wait a minute, I did all those things.
Does he do bobsled though?
He didn't do bobsled, but I think he could have been a really great bobsledder, honestly.
Well, there you go. Just saying you're better than Hercules. Clearly. Hashtag better than Hercules. There's another t-shirt for you.
More side hustles. But when I was younger, I was obsessed with Grease. So that's something I became, which now that I'm older, looking back, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have been watching this movie when I was like 8 years old.
I think there's always some movies that, you question why were you allowed to watch them growing up. So, I was fed a nice staple diet of Jean-Claude Van Damme and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, which again is like a 6-year-old probably shouldn't be watching. But hey, thanks, Dad. I had a great childhood.
It happens.
Exactly. I haven't blown anyone up yet, so that's all good. Your favorite place to visit in Canada is?
I feel like there's so many places I haven't visited in Canada to like not be able to.
Well, is there a place particular that you would really like to go, maybe that you've not been to?
I really want to go to Halifax because like one of my best friends is currently there finishing up her law degree. So I really want to visit her, and I haven't seen her in 3 years. So I'd love to see her. And yeah, I would like to go see the East Coast. Try get some lobster rolls maybe.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that would be really sweet. And when my dad immigrated into Canada, his name is apparently on a book somewhere, and I believe it's in Halifax because that's where the docking port was. So when he arrived in Canada, so I think it'd be kind of cool to see that too.
Perfect. I've got to ask a question on behalf of Colin, who's not here right now. But have you been to Winnipeg?
I have. It is fucking cold. I went in my last year of university. I went. We had now it's called U Sports, but we had university nationals there. So I went in February as like a tester event, and then like a test competition to get the facility, all that stuff, start visualizing, and then I went again in March, beginning of March for the actual like nationals. And the facility is beautiful. Like the track itself, it's like a really nice track. And you're like, man, they have this out in Winnipeg? What? But I remember walking outside and I was wearing jeans and my legs just started burning because of just how cold it was. And I was like, we got to get out of here.
Common expression when you're in Winnipeg is I've got to get out of here. That's on many levels. I've heard
it's beautiful. I've heard it's beautiful in the summer, but unfortunately I went there in the winter and yeah, it was
I think Colin's told the story on some of our shows before, but I think it's got the biggest discrepancy in the world between like the lowest in winter and the highest in summer. Like it's some ridiculous like 50 degrees Celsius or something like that. Just it's amazing how big it is. But Colin's a very proud Winnipegger. Is that sounds inappropriate? Winnipegian. I don't know what the correct terminology is for somebody from Winnipeg. So we've always got to ask that question, basically, to make him happy. Winnipegger. Don't steal that for people from Winnipeg. My favorite cartoon to watch growing up was?
I'm trying to think, like, I can't remember, when I was really little, it's not a cartoon, but I watched, like, Barney. Like, I loved watching Barney. And then as I got older, it turned into SpongeBob SquarePants. So, yeah, and now it's funny because I still watch cartoons. Like, I watch, like the adult cartoons, I guess. Like I watch Bob's Burgers, like Family Guy, like Archer. I really like Archer. That one's a good one. So I never really steered away from the cartoons. I just graduated to more age.
Well, I think a lot of people, cartoons. I mean, I still watch The Simpsons, even though it hasn't been good in about 20 years, but I still watch it. So like, why not? Are you excited then for the Bob's Burgers movies coming out, basically? Or maybe it's already out?
I just saw that for the first time as I was driving the other day. I saw it on the side of a movie theater where I think it was coming out May 27th. I was like, I didn't know Bob's Burgers was having a movie. I gotta go watch that. So
you're excited for it.
So it's funny you asked me. Yeah, I was like, I gotta go watch that.
Yeah, well, proud sponsor. I wish they were a proud sponsor. We could use some money. But anyway, if you're listening, Bob's Burger movie people, sponsor us. We're great. If you had to do karaoke, what would you sing?
Can I choose Tequila?
Absolutely. Of course you can. That's a classic.
That is a classic. If I had to actually pick a song, I would probably pick Gimme, 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 or one of those maybe Rasputin or something like
yes.
that.
Well, they did a new version of that recently, didn't they? There was some remix or something of Rasputin that came out. So,
I didn't know that. By Boney M?
Yeah, no, they've gotten the Boney M version. I can't remember who did it, but within the last 12 months, there's a sort of a I don't know if it's technically a remix or they've just sampled it and mixed it, whatever they do with it. But there is a version of it that's been in the charts recently. So
wow, I'm gonna have to look that up because I've just been listening to the old tried and true one. So
yeah, no, it does the trick. Now this is the last question, but you've got plenty to choose from because you almost, I guess, went on a different path to go for an Olympian in a different sport. But if you could choose to be an Olympian in any other sport besides your own, what sport would you choose?
Sure. It depends. So that sounds really bad. If I could restart, I would probably be a tennis player because there's actually money in tennis.
True. Yes.
But I really like if I had to pick like a specific winter sport one, I really like the idea of speed skating because I think there's so many opportunities to like be a medalist and like, I think like that's a really cool one. I do long track. I don't want to do
I was going to say long track or short track. Which way would you go?
Short track looks so wild, and I don't like the idea that like someone could just like stick their foot in my foot and then you're out. I'm like, no, don't touch me. Like, so I like the idea of long track, and there's just so many opportunities to like, to be able to compete and to win medals, which I think that's really cool.
That's why you're a brake woman then. It's like the don't touch me thing. You can just get in the back. I'm like, oh no,
pretty
I'm
much, yeah.
It's just, I'm having I don't want to touch anyone.
I think that's why I've done a lot of individual sports. I'm like, don't touch me.
It's rugby. Like that makes sense. Rugby, why you didn't do rugby? Too much tackling.
Well, like one time I did like a 4-man load in the ice house and with one of my coaches. And I didn't like how close he had to get to me. I was like,
you loved COVID then for the social distancing. That was your bag. Like you were just like, social distancing. Nice. Yes.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
6 feet away. Well, I've been dreaming of this my entire life. Like, come on, bring it on.
Just waiting for it.
Just waiting for it. The other drawing aspect of it, draw a picture of your favorite animal. So, animal, yourself.
This is also a hard question.
I know, right? Like, what would you draw?
I could draw a cat. Those are pretty.
Go for it. That's simplish. Draw both your cats. Not being bastards.
That was an interesting way to like get me to be like, okay, now you've agreed to drawing something.
I know. This is what we do on the show. We get to a point where it's just like we say it's optional, but then we're like, no, you will do it. Exactly. Sarah, before we let you go, if people wish to stay up to date with what you're up to between now and Milan or whatever happens next in your journey, social media, things like that, where can people follow you? But not touch you. Not that you would. That sounds inappropriate. But like just 6 feet away in following her. Thank you.
Don't touch me. But
yes.
A lot of my social medias are, it's like a villain. So it's either like a villain 13 or just like a villain. Pretty easy to find on social media. It's like I'm more active on Instagram. I'm trying to be more active on TikTok. But I'm also on Twitter and Facebook. And
I feel every time somebody brings up TikTok, I love to make my Kesha joke. Haha, that's a Kesha song. But like I feel like I should be on TikTok just to follow all of our guests because I've never used it in my life. But it sounds like there's good shit going on TikTok. So maybe I need to download it.
It's a little bit of, you have to be prepared that it is a wormhole. You will suddenly 3 hours has gone by and you're like, oh my gosh, I've just scrolled through TikTok. But it's super, like, honestly, like it's really entertaining. And there's a lot of Canadian athletes and a lot of international athletes that, do the TikTok thing and they have fun doing it. And it's fun. Yeah.
All right, we're going to check this out. And has Elon Musk bought TikTok? No, it's safe from Elon Musk.
I feel like he's probably. I have a feeling that it's going to be a tweet soon. Just give it like a month or two.
Okay. Just get on while it's hot then, basically. Sarah, it's been a lot of fun. Really appreciate your time learning about everything and your journey and everything throughout the sport. And I will say that next time if we get you back on the show, I'll be sure to bring a Twinkie done by Channing Tatum, though. Would you eat it if Channing Tatum brought you a Twinkie?
I don't know. Like, it's kind of my claim to fame.
But it's Channing Tatum. Like, come on. Like,
yeah, but at the end of the day, it's his,
I don't like peas and corn. And I'm okay. I've never watched Game of Thrones in my life. And that's kind of my thing. But if Natalie Portman rocked up to my place right now and was like, Ben, let's watch Game of Thrones, probably going to say yes.
But you wouldn't eat the peas and corn?
No, not even if Natalie Portman is right there, like seductively, Ben, eat some peas. No, go away, Natalie. Just go back to Thor. Like I'm not doing it. Sarah, a lot of fun. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
No, thank you. This has been wonderful.